Ambassador James Walker's office screen blazed to life unexpectedly. He glanced up from the diplomatic papers scattered across his desk. The Empire's blood-red symbol filled the display, and his stomach tightened. 15 years as Earth's representative to the Galactic Empire had taught him one hard truth: surprise announcements never brought welcome news. He put down his coffee and straightened his gray uniform. An automatic gesture from decades of formal protocol. A cold, automated voice echoed through the room. This is an official Imperial transmission. All systems under Imperial control must watch. The lights dimmed on their own, and the broadcast took over his entire wall. The image showed an enormous plaza on Centauri Prime. 50,000 people knelt in endless rows, stretching to the horizon. Walker's chest constricted as he understood what he was seeing. This wasn't a ceremony or proclamation. This was a killing field. Grand Executive Marcus appeared, his holographic form towering over the plaza. His pristine white uniform blazed under twin suns, decorations glittering. Today the Empire punishes those who threaten our stability and order. These traitors have been convicted of promoting chaos and insurrection. Walker's fingers dug into his desk edge. Among the kneeling crowds, he spotted the distinctive blue medical uniforms worn by Earth's interstellar aid corps. His thoughts raced. 300 human medical workers had been stationed in Centauri, treating victims of a recent disease outbreak. The Empire hadn't even separated them from the other condemned prisoners. Let this demonstration teach everyone who challenges Imperial authority, Marcus declared. Behind him, rows of Imperial soldiers lifted their energy weapons. No, Walker breathed, but his eyes stayed fixed on the screen. Protocol demanded he watch everything. Every diplomat in known space would be viewing this, and humanity's reaction needed to be calculated and deliberate. The execution happened without sound, methodical and devastatingly quick. Energy waves swept across the plaza, and row after row of people collapsed forward. No cries, no disorder, just the quiet elimination of 50,000 lives in under 2 minutes. Walker's computer immediately started flashing. Messages poured in from Earth's government, from human settlements, from allied species. His hand trembled as he activated his communication panel, but years of diplomatic training steadied him. "Connect me to the Security Council," he ordered, his voice firmer than he felt. "And save everything from this broadcast. Every frame, every angle, every piece of transmission data. We'll need all of it." While waiting for the connection, Walker's mind was already processing the implications. The Empire had just killed 300 human aid workers without any trial, without presenting charges, without even informing Earth's government beforehand. But they had done something even more dangerous. They had given humanity a reason to respond. His screen chimed as the Security Council connection established. 12 faces appeared, the leaders of Earth's government looking as shocked and furious as he felt. "Ladies and gentlemen," Walker said, his voice now ice-cold and precise, "the Empire has just committed the greatest error in their 3-century history. They believed this broadcast would demonstrate their power. Instead, they've revealed something far more valuable to us." He paused, letting his words sink in completely. "They've revealed that they're terrified." The council members leaned closer, and Walker recognized the same resolve in their expressions that burned in his own heart. The Empire had wanted to send a message with this broadcast. They had succeeded, but not in the way they planned. Humanity had received the message perfectly clear. The time for careful diplomacy had ended. Now came the time for accountability. The United Earth Government's emergency assembly began exactly 6 hours after the broadcast. The magnificent chamber, usually a place of thoughtful discussion and measured debate, practically vibrated with controlled rage. 500 representatives from Earth and its settlements filled the historic hall in Geneva, their expressions severe under the warm lights. Walker stood at the speaker's platform, his diplomatic uniform still immaculate despite having not slept. The hologram projector behind him showed images from the broadcast, frozen on the faces of human medical workers, seconds before their deaths. "These were our citizens," Walker said, his voice reaching every corner of the chamber. Dr. Anna Miller, who created vaccines for 3 different alien species. Medical technician Robert Thompson, who worked 60 consecutive days during the Centauri plague emergency. Head nurse Lisa Martinez, who delivered children from 6 different species. He touched the controls, and the images shifted. The Empire labeled them dangerous troublemakers. Their offense: they treated everyone who came to their medical facilities, including people the Empire considered enemies. A quiet murmur spread through the chamber. Walker continued, cycling through more images. "The Empire didn't just murder our people, they violated their own regulations to do it. No trials, no evidence shown, no right to defense. They broke 47 different provisions of the Galactic Charter of Rights, a charter they themselves authored." Director Reynolds from Earth Intelligence stepped forward next. His simple black suit contrasted sharply with the formal clothing around him. "We've verified that this wasn't random violence. The Empire deliberately chose systems and populations they thought might oppose their control. They wanted to make an example." The chamber exploded in angry voices. Walker raised his hand for quiet, and the room gradually settled. Years of representing Earth across the galaxy had shown him the strength of calm words during heated moments. The Empire expects us to complain quietly, and then accept their meaningless apologies, he said. They assume we'll be satisfied with small concessions and empty promises. They think humans are predictable, that we'll choose commerce over justice. A thin smile crossed his face. They're mistaken. Admiral Lane stepped forward next, her fleet uniform decorated with stars from 20 years of service. The Empire controls most known hyperspace routes, she said, activating a new hologram displaying trade paths between systems. They believe this gives them authority over us. She pressed a control, and new routes appeared in blue. These are the paths we've charted and kept hidden over the past decade. Routes they don't know exist. The representatives leaned forward, examining the intricate web of blue lines connecting human worlds to dozens of other civilizations. Walker nodded to Admiral Lane and continued. For 15 years I've advocated patience and cooperation with the Empire. I thought we could reform them from inside their structure. I was wrong. The Empire only respects force, he said. He paused, looking around the chamber. But not all force comes from weapons. They've demonstrated their kind of force. The power to kill defenseless people. Now we'll demonstrate ours. The power to forge alliances, to control resources they require, to create pathways they don't know about. The chamber was completely silent now. Walker's voice grew stronger. The Empire thought this broadcast would silence opposition. Instead, it will become evidence in their prosecution. They thought it would display their might. It will prove their violations. They thought it would teach everyone to fear them. He smiled again, but this time with steel behind it. Instead, it will teach them to fear us. The representatives stood as one, their approval resonating off the ancient walls. The measure passed with complete agreement. Earth would demand justice, not just for their own dead, but for all 50,000 victims. The Empire had wanted to send a message to the galaxy. Now humanity would send one in return. The Imperial High Council's chamber rose 100 meters into the air, its black marble walls designed to make visitors feel insignificant and powerless. Holographic images of conquered planets floated near the ceiling, a constant display of the Empire's enormous reach. But Ambassador Walker felt only cold resolve as he walked down the long central pathway. Grand Executive Marcus occupied the elevated central throne. Surrounded by 12 Imperial Council members in their white uniforms, their faces showed only disinterest, as if the execution of 50,000 people was too trivial for their full attention. The human ambassador seeks an audience, announced the chamber's artificial voice with no emotion. Subject: the recent security enforcement action in the Centauri system. Marcus gestured lazily. Proceed, Ambassador, though I must inform you that internal Imperial security operations are not subject to discussion. Walker stopped at the designated position, 30 meters from the council platform. He removed a small device from his pocket and placed it on the floor. Before the guards could move, it projected an enormous hologram showing the execution broadcast. I'm not here to discuss, Walker said firmly. I'm here to inform you of consequences. The council members stirred, unaccustomed to such direct language from what they considered a lesser species. Marcus leaned forward slightly. Consequences. Choose your next words very carefully. Ambassador. Walker pressed a control. The hologram changed to display trade routes across the galaxy. Humanity controls 30% of the galaxy's rare element production. Starting immediately, that supply is closed to the Empire. One of the council members laughed. You'll destroy your own economy. No, Walker replied. We've spent years preparing for this moment. Your intelligence services were so occupied watching our transport vessels that they missed our actual preparations. He changed the hologram again, showing the 47 violations of the Galactic Charter. Each of these broken regulations carries a specific penalty under Imperial law. We demand every one of them be enforced. Marcus stood up, his face darkening. You dare quote our laws to us? The Empire has existed for 300 years. We define the law, not anymore. Walker's voice remained calm. The broadcast wasn't just transmitted through official channels. Our technical teams broke your encryption. Every being in the galaxy can now access the unedited version, including the parts you tried to conceal. The council chamber grew very quiet. Walker continued. They can see how you selected your victims, how you deliberately included aid workers to punish systems that accepted help from outside the Empire, how you violated your own regulations. These are internal Imperial matters, Marcus growled. If you continue this defiance, we will cut off all trade routes to Earth's colonies. Your worlds will starve. Walker smiled for the first time. No, we won't. Director Reynolds sends his regards. By the way, he wanted you to know that those trade route maps you're so proud of, they're about 300 years outdated. The council members began whispering among themselves. Walker could see the first hints of concern on their faces. They were finally understanding that humanity wasn't just angry. They were ready. You have 24 hours to begin complying with our demands, Walker said. After that, the rare element supply stops completely. And that's just the beginning. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. Check your personal accounts. You'll find they've been frozen across every banking system in the galaxy. A small gift from Earth's cyber teams. As Walker walked out of the chamber, he heard the council erupt into furious argument. The Empire had assumed humans were simple creatures who could be intimidated and controlled. They were about to discover just how wrong they were. The diplomatic dance was finished. Now the real pressure would start. 3 days after Walker's confrontation with the Imperial Council, the Empire launched what they believed would be a devastating response. Their massive warships appeared over Earth's largest colony worlds, prepared to enforce a complete trade blockade. But the Empire's display of force met an unexpected sight. Empty spaceports and silent trading docks. In his temporary command center on Luna Base, Walker monitored the Imperial fleet's movements on an enormous tactical display. Admiral Lane stood beside him, a slight smile on her face as she tracked the confused movements of the Imperial ships. "They're searching for our supply vessels," Lane said, indicating the erratic patrol patterns. "They still haven't figured it out." She pressed a control, and new routes appeared on the display, hundreds of them spreading out like a spider's web through supposedly empty space. Walker nodded. "How long did it take us to chart these routes?" 10 years, Lane replied, "while they were monitoring our official shipping lanes. We had smaller ships plotting new hyperspace paths through unexplored sectors. The Empire assumes they know every safe route in the galaxy. Their arrogance made them stop looking for new ones." The command center's door opened and Director Reynolds entered, carrying a data tablet. "The latest reports from our embedded agents," he said. "The Imperial Council is in complete disarray. 3 members have already attempted to access their frozen accounts. When they couldn't, they started contacting their secret backup accounts, which we also froze." Walker added. "Exactly." Reynolds smiled. "They never imagined we could reach their personal wealth. They thought their banking systems were impenetrable. They didn't realize we've had operatives inside their financial networks for years." A young officer rushed to Admiral Lane, whispering something urgently. She straightened, her smile widening. "The first Imperial supply shipment just tried to use their emergency stockpile of rare elements. They found the containers empty." Walker raised an eyebrow. "Our people replaced the contents months ago," Reynolds confirmed. "Pure dirt, packed to precisely the same weight. Their own security systems showed everything was normal, because we never broke the seals. We simply went around them." The tactical display suddenly lit up with new alerts. Imperial ships were breaking off their blockade positions, responding to urgent recalls. Without the rare elements they needed, their advanced weapons were beginning to fail. The mighty Imperial fleet was being undermined not by battles, but by careful planning and patience. Message, coming in from Grand Executive Marcus, announced the communications officer. Walker straightened his uniform. Main screen, Marcus's face appeared, his usual arrogance replaced by poorly concealed worry. "Ambassador Walker, perhaps we can discuss a compromise regarding your demands. The time for compromise was before you murdered 50,000 innocent people." Walker replied calmly. "Now you'll face justice under your own laws. Every provision you broke, every rule you ignored, we'll enforce them all. You don't understand what you're doing." Marcus snarled. "The Empire maintains order. Without us, the galaxy will fall into chaos." Walker leaned forward. "No, you don't understand. We've spent 15 years learning your systems, finding your weaknesses, and preparing for this moment. You thought humans were simple creatures you could bully into submission. Instead, we were mapping your blind spots, tracking your crimes, and building a network that could bring you down without firing a single shot." He stood straighter. "Look around you, Grand Executive. Your fleet is failing, your economy is freezing, your council is panicking. And this is just the beginning." The transmission cut off abruptly. Walker turned to his team. "Send the signal to our allies. Phase 2 begins now." Across the galaxy, carefully positioned agents began their work. The Empire's greatest mistake hadn't been the executions. It had been underestimating humanity's capacity for patient, methodical resistance. The lunar conference room was never designed to accommodate this many species. Originally built for Earth's diplomatic corps, it now hosted representatives from 12 different civilizations. Walker stood at the head of the long table, looking at faces that would have been impossible to gather in one room. Just weeks earlier, the blue-skinned tradesman of the Merkle worlds tapped his fingers on the table. "The Empire has controlled our commerce for 2 centuries. They take 40% of our profits as protection fees. They banned our research into clean energy," added the chief scientist of the Riel systems, her crystalline form catching the light. "Said it would destabilize their power monopoly." One by one, they shared their grievances. The Empire had harmed them all, but fear had kept them isolated. Now, watching the humans stand up to Imperial power, they found their courage. "Our intelligence suggests the Empire is weaker than they appear," Director Reynolds said, sharing data on the main screen. "They maintain power through fear and the illusion of total control, but their reaction to our actions proves how fragile that control really is." Admiral Lane stepped forward. "We've charted safe routes connecting all your systems," she said, displaying the secret hyperspace network. "Routes the Empire doesn't know about. With these, we can create a new trading alliance that bypasses their control completely. The representatives studied the map with growing interest. The military commander of the Proxima colonies, a tall figure in ceremonial armor, spoke next. The Empire's ships guard the known routes. But if these new paths are real, they're real, Walker confirmed. We've spent years verifying each one. Together, they form a network that connects every major system in the galaxy. A network the Empire can't monitor or control. The tradesman leaned forward. How do we know we can trust Earth? You might simply want to replace the Empire with your own control. Walker smiled and pressed a control. The room's holographic system activated, displaying the execution broadcast. The Empire killed 50,000 people to send a message of fear. They wanted everyone to believe resistance was hopeless. He paused the image. But look closer. Among the executed were humans who came to help others. We don't want to rule you. We just want a galaxy where helping others isn't punishable by death. The room fell silent as they watched the footage. Walker continued. Every species here has suffered under the Empire. They keep us divided because they know that together we're stronger than they are. They don't need ships or weapons to maintain control. They just need us to believe we're alone. The chief scientist's crystalline form pulsed with emotion. What exactly are you proposing? A coalition, Walker replied, not ruled by Earth or any single power. A true alliance of equals. We have the roots. You have resources and knowledge. Together, we can create something the Empire fears more than any rebellion. An alternative to their power. The military commander stood. The Empire will try to stop this. They'll respond with force when they realize what's happening. Let them try, Admiral Lane said firmly. Their ships are already failing without our rare elements. Their economy is freezing as we speak. And now, she smiled, they'll face not just humanity, but all of us together. One by one, the representatives signaled their agreement. Within hours, the coalition charter was drafted and signed. As Walker looked around the room, he saw something that had been missing from the galaxy for centuries. Hope. The Empire's brutal, BROADCAST had been meant to crush resistance. Instead, it had united their victims into the first real challenge to Imperial power in 300 years. And this was just the beginning. The peace conference was held on Station Neutral, a massive space station in unclaimed territory between Imperial and Coalition space. Walker knew it was a trap. The Empire would never agree to genuine negotiations, but that was exactly why he had to attend. The tracking devices are in place, Director Reynolds said, adjusting Walker's formal suit collar. We'll know your location within the station at all times. They stood in a private chamber, preparing for the meeting. Are you sure about this? The Empire is getting desperate. Desperate people make dangerous choices. Walker nodded. That's what I'm counting on. The Empire still thinks they can solve this with one bold move. Let them try. The conference chamber was a perfect circle, with the Imperial delegation on one side and the Coalition representatives on the other. Grand Executive Marcus stood at the head of the Imperial group, his white uniform now showing signs of where the Empire's supply problems were starting to show. The Empire is willing to discuss certain concessions. Marcus began, his voice strained. In return for resuming rare element shipments, we might consider reducing our presence in some systems. Walker stayed silent, watching the Imperial guards slowly shifting positions around the room. Through his hidden earpiece, he could hear Reynolds providing updates. 3 Imperial assassins moving into position, all marked and tracked. Your silence is not helpful, Ambassador, Marcus said, irritation creeping into his voice. The Empire seeks a peaceful resolution, like the peace you gave to 50,000 innocent people. Walker finally spoke. Or the peace you've maintained through fear for 300 years. Marcus's face darkened. You test our patience. Human guards moving into strike positions. Reynolds whispered in Walker's ear. 30 seconds. Walker stood up slowly. No, Grand Executive, you've tested ours. Did you really think we wouldn't be ready for this? He pressed a small control on his sleeve. Throughout the chamber, Imperial guards suddenly froze in place, their weapons half drawn. What is this? Marcus demanded, looking around in confusion. Your Imperial Guard has been compromised for years, Walker said calmly. Did you never wonder why we seem to know so much about your plans? Director Reynolds spent a decade placing our people in your most trusted units. The chamber's doors slid open and Coalition security teams entered, led by agents Walker had known for years. Agents who had been wearing Imperial uniforms until moments ago. Lieutenant Ross? Walker nodded to a woman removing her Imperial helmet, or should I say, Earth Intelligence Senior. Agent Ross, thank you for your 15 years of service in the Imperial Guard. Marcus lunged forward, reaching for a hidden weapon, but found himself quickly restrained. Around the chamber, the same scene played out as genuine Imperial Guards discovered they were suddenly outnumbered by revealed Coalition agents. This entire peace conference is being broadcast across the galaxy, Walker announced. Every system can see how the Empire planned to assassinate diplomatic representatives during peace talks. He turned to Marcus. Your own security cameras are transmitting it. Your own communication systems are spreading it. Your own people are watching it. The coalition representatives stood calmly, unsurprised by the events unfolding. They had known the plan. This was more than stopping an assassination. It was showing the galaxy that the Empire's power was an illusion. You've lost, Marcus, Walker said quietly, not to weapons or armies, but to patience and preparation. While you were watching for battleships, you should have been watching your own ranks. As coalition forces led the Imperial delegation away, Walker received a message from Earth. More Imperial systems were declaring their independence. Inspired by the broadcast of the Empire's failed assassination attempt, the Empire's greatest weapon had always been fear. Now that weapon was being turned against them. The Imperial Senate chamber had not witnessed a trial in 300 years. There had never been a need. The Empire's justice was swift and absolute. But now, 6 months after the failed assassination attempt, the massive room served a new purpose. The same space where the Empire had celebrated countless victories now hosted its own judgment. Walker sat in the witness box, facing the newly formed Galactic Court of Justice. Representatives from 50 species filled the chamber. Above them, massive screens showed the proceedings to trillions of beings across thousands of worlds. Please state for the court. The Chief Justice began. What happened after the Empire's execution broadcast? Walker spoke clearly, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. The Empire believed they were showing their strength. Instead, they revealed their greatest weakness, their dependence on fear. We used that broadcast to prove they had violated their own laws. 47 times in a single action. Grand Executive Marcus and the Imperial Council sat in the defendant's box, their white uniforms replaced by simple gray clothes. They watched as Walker displayed document after document, recording after recording, building an unshakable case against them. The Empire's own records proved their crimes. Walker continued, records they thought were secure, but which our agents had been quietly copying for years. Their own security footage shows their violations. Their own financial logs reveal their corruption. The evidence was overwhelming. Messages between council members laughing about their crimes. Records of bribes and threats. Proof of countless violations of the very laws they had created to control others. But their greatest crime, Walker said, displaying the execution broadcast one final time, was believing they could murder 50,000 innocent beings and face no consequences. That the galaxy would watch this atrocity and remain silent out of fear. He turned to face the defendants directly. You thought that broadcast would strengthen your power. Instead, it became Exhibit A in your trial. The very thing you used to spread fear became the proof of your crimes. The trial lasted 3 days. The Empire's own laws, twisted for centuries to oppress others, now served justice. The sentences were read out one by one, each punishment exactly matching what the Empire had prescribed in its legal codes. By the authority of the Galactic Court of Justice, the Chief Justice announced, using the Empire's own laws and standards of evidence. This court finds the defendants guilty of all charges. Marcus stood up, his face red with rage. You cannot judge us. We are the Empire. We are the law. No, Walker replied calmly. You created laws to control others, never thinking they would apply to you. That was your final mistake. The sentences were carried out immediately. Not with executions. The coalition had rejected the Empire's brutal methods. Instead, the Imperial leaders were sentenced to work in the same labor camps they had sent so many others to. They would live under the same harsh rules they had created for their victims. As Walker left the Senate chamber, he saw something new in the faces of the beings he passed. Not fear, but hope. The Empire's mighty fleets were being converted into cargo ships. Their fortresses were becoming schools and hospitals. Their treasuries were paying reparations to those they had wronged. Was it worth it? Director Reynolds asked, walking beside him. 15 years of planning. All those agents risking their lives. Walker stopped at a window, looking out at the capital world that had once been the Empire's crown jewel. Ships from 100 worlds moved freely through its skies, no longer afraid of Imperial patrols. Look out there, he said softly. They wanted to teach everyone a lesson about power. And they did, just not the lesson they intended. The Empire's broadcast had meant to show their strength. Instead, it had revealed a simple truth. Real power doesn't come from fear or weapons, but from patience, justice, and the courage to stand together against tyranny. The galaxy would remember that lesson for a very long time.